All right, Kayla. I hit record, so now you got to be like on spot here, right? You were just laughing pretty hard. We just had a great little chit chat prior to this hit record. But I got to know Kayla probably over the past year and a half, I think, somewhere along the lines of that. And we've been going back and forth many a times, and I've been fighting to get her on here, and she's been doing other things. But we finally got together, and she's here to share whatever she can share to the world about her life and how she traveled through it and how she can help others. So I'm just going to start off there, Kayla. Why don't you just share with everybody, where are you at this moment and what are you most excited about?
So where I am at this moment is I feel like it's a beautiful revival and a, a real digging into who I am as a genuine leader and a genuine helper. And I am most excited about, well, I think that part. I think I tried to fit myself into a box for a really long time in business, listening to self-proclaimed, you know, gurus of marketing and entrepreneurship and even the healing world, and felt, well, they know more than me, and I think it led me away from my own voice and led me away from my own intuition because I knew who I am at the core is a very multi-talented individual who always does the best that she can in any way, shape, or form with whatever she chooses to put her energy into. I don't half ass anything. So that's how I come to the table with clients. That's how I come to the table with my craft. And I feel like the thing I'm most excited about is probably the one thing that a lot of people are teaching now is I just get to be me. I just get to be me and I get to say, these are the things that I can offer you, and this is how I can work with you. And if you see that value, then we have a match. So I feel like that is the most exciting part where I am.
So you kind of figured that out, but it took you a while.
Well, I think I was there a while ago, but I think I lost it. I really went through a very, very difficult period and I'm still kind of meandering in that space around chronic illness. And chronic illness, I think, teaches you a lot about yourself. And I know, with your podcast, you have a lot of people on who kind of come from the space of like from like root to rise and
Hmm.
this the space of like kind of coming beyond the odds. And I don't think I'm any different from that place where you go through a level of trial and tribulation and all of a sudden you start seeing the world differently. And I think for me, there would have been a time that I would have said, screw chronic illness is bullshit. But I think I'm in a place now where I'm like, look how much you learned about yourself. You learned to say no. You learn to say, no, my intuition is telling me that I get to be this whole person, and you don't get to tell me to niche down into a space where I have all these other wonderful things that people can benefit from and that I benefit from as a neurodivergent person. And I feel like I'm just finally there where I'm like, cool, come to my table and let's have a discussion and let me show you how I can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I podcast and I'll post stuff about podcasting, but I also post stuff like my dog or whatever, like animals or whatever I come across. So that's like keeping it real, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like you're alive, you're a person. Don't like make it just like business,
Yeah.
and because a lot of people are going to relate to who you are, Kayla. Like what do you enjoy to do? And how are you helping people? So you got to just keep putting that out there, and you'll attract the right people. So yeah, you said niche down. Like people were trying to tell you that like just stick with one thing.
Yeah. And I think that was the hardest part because, to speak to your point earlier about, keeping it real and genuine, that is a core value of mine of being like in that space of genuine. People use the word authenticity a lot, and I feel like it's becoming drowned out a little bit, but just knowing thyself and living from that space of inner divinity and inner truth is really the thing that will get you anywhere. And I've always been that person who shared and was vulnerable. Most people in my network will tell you nobody's more vulnerable than Kayla. She's super real. She's super honest. She doesn't sugarcoat anything. But she's able to come with you in a place of compassion. And I think that that's really the key in the end. I think I got away from some things because I didn't know how to take authenticity and put it into a business model. I was always authentic working for other people, but as like an entrepreneur, did I trade my authenticity? No, but I didn't know how to take all of the different things that I do and maybe bring it into a place where the marketing message was very clear, or as I changed my audience into a place where I finally was starting to feel value and could kind of feel like I was charging what I was worth, felt safe and good. And yes, people told me, I've been an artist and a musician my whole life. That is what I dedicated my life to. And alongside of doing that professionally and personally, I had been developing a healing business. First, because I sought healing for myself. And that's a big soapbox for me. I don't feel like the healing spiritual world is about get spiritual and make a business. I believe it's get into spirituality or find God or whatever that is and work that programming for yourself so that you can fully return home in your own divinity, and there's a lot of sacredness that is being completely taken out of that journey. And I had a lot of people who said to me, well, your art either has to be the primary or it has to be the secondary. I'm like, I can't live without that. Like even in my healing business, like, all right, well, I, have been guided to sing for people in session as, using sound healing. I used to perform all over New England doing sound healing for people. It's not the main thing that I do, but it is the bridge with large groups that I would do. And I would blend my talents in that spaces, you know. So I found myself very frustrated as a multi-passionate, trying to find a way to niche this in. And then I discovered something very interesting.
Oh,
It
here we
wasn't,
go.
yeah, are you ready?
Yeah.
Like, so for all of those multi-passionate people out there who are struggling and you hear, you have to niche down. Okay, it's not niching what you do, it's just niching your message. So I figured out like who my audience was, what it is that I actually do, no matter what the medium was, whether it was my art, whether it was the metaphysical, spiritual side of things that I'm doing as a master energy healer and a seer. And I figured out that it wasn't about taking any of those tools out of my toolbox, because that was the message that I was inherently receiving from a lot of people was those tools are later. And I'm like, but these work for certain individuals because I'm not cookie cutter or anything.
Mhm.
I will not take a system and force someone into a box and put them in that system and say, but this will work for you. I work with the person, their energy, and help them find their truth. So when I say I just figured out how to niche down, well, really my niche is I guide women to embody safety and self energy, soul wholeness, and reigniting their oracle with energies and art. That's my niche. But I don't have to mess with any toolbox or throw them away. Screw that. And I'm
Hey,
excited about that.
you can add to it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And art is becoming a huge forefront in my business where I'm finally doing art for myself. And when I started doing art for myself, people were standing in front of my paintings or in front of my alchemy sigils or even my trademark product, hookah sprays, and having healing responses. And music, I think, in art can do that because it transcends language, right? So transcending language, I think, is really important because then you're actually having codes back and forth between a soul resonance without having to speak about it. I think people need to feel versus process in this day and age. We process so much all the time. Feed, feed through social media, what I'm digesting all the time. But I think we need to feel. Art can make you feel. Being with the right leader, the right healer for you can make you feel. And coupling that with bringing safety into your life and showing you that it's safe to feel, all of your other talents will reignite for that once you feel safety and trust in being who you are. So it's a very magical and powerful thing.
So when you say art, you mean the action of creating the art or just looking at it?
So I believe that both of those things happen, but in what I'm specifically speaking about is like art is very healing for me, music is very healing. So I'm healing myself through creating my art,
Hmm.
you know. And I thought, well, could I do this for other people? So when people stand in front of a piece that I've already created, they were having meditations all of a sudden happen spontaneously. They were having healing responses and emotional responses, and they were reminding themselves what it felt like to feel and to be in a space of emotion through curiosity instead of through, and I'm not saying anybody should get away from this because I believe what I do marries beautifully with therapy. But in therapy, they were processing, and they didn't know how to experience emotions safely, and they were struggling there. So I think, and they weren't doing it through curiosity; they were doing through this drive of like, if I heal this, then I'll be okay.
Hmm.
That's not really the point, is it? It's a journey and the nuances of the nuggets that come along the way for that.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at a picture or somebody else, right? Am I feeling and I'm getting the emotions because I'm matching that image with something that could have happened to me in the past or something along those lines?
I have seen that, yes. I think in this day and age, there are a lot of people who are dealing with dysregulation. They're very emotional. There's a lot of social justice issues going on, and I have a lot of social justice things that I do paint in my work. Not for everything, but you'll see if you follow my stuff, there's a lot of women's issues within there. And when you get in front of something, whether it be a specific subject or not, I truly believe that art and healing energies create an openness in your heart space and allow you to feel something. And it's your responsibility, job, or choice, however your language works for you, to decide if you want to give that meaning or not. One woman, to answer your question a little bit more directly, one woman, I actually gifted her a painting. So I was the first person to show at an open gallery that opened here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I was the first person to show my work there. She stood in front of this painting. It was one of my first original pieces when I was finally painting for myself instead of other people. And she had a full past life recognition and had tears streaming down her face. Now, with the type of spiritual work that I do, that's not surprising to me that it's coming through my art because I deal with a lot of ancestral healing, a lot of past life healing, and help you integrate aspects of self so that you can absorb the wisdom in the now moment of where you are here. And when she described this to me and what she saw, I couldn't unsee it in the painting. I gifted it to her the following year because I thought this is this has had an imprint for her, an impression here, and it brought a place of healing that brought more wholeness to her. And I thought this can't go anywhere else, so I gave it to her. She didn't know I was going to do it. The piece was probably 48 inches by 48 inches. It's huge. And I said, I hope you have a place for this in your house, Darnell. And she cried, and I just thought, like, this is where it's at. you know this is where it's at. You go to seek beauty or you go to seek experience. Healing and how it crosses over with art is creating a healing response or an emotional or visceral response for you to see what it's about. If it's something that you feel like you need to heal or shift, or if you feel like it's something that you need to dive into more. Like, I have stood in front of one of my favorite artists, Mark Rothko. I never really studied much about him other than his artwork, what it looked like, maybe what he was using for materials, and what movements he was a part of. I saw my first Mark Rothko at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and it was a black background with another shade of black on top of it and red. And if you're familiar with his artwork, it's generally very large, has a lot of presence. And I stood in front of that and I had tears streaming down my face. And it wasn't until I started reading about him where he and actually quite a few other artists really suffered with anxiety and mental health. And I feel like I could identify with that in my own way, you know? And sometimes beauty can be a great healer. And of course, it's in the eye of the beholder, but I think beauty can be a great healer. And if it gets you to feel something, then you know that you're human. And you know that you're here and you're receiving a connection via something. That's our job as healers and artists, is to get you to feel something. I don't care if it's anger, I don't care if it's joy. I mean, I care, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just about feeling.
Mm.
And recognizing that feelings are a part of the human experience, and they bring richness to that human experience. You have to stop thinking of them as wrong or inappropriate. It's about harnessing emotion and harnessing your feelings in a way that it doesn't get trapped in your body. It doesn't suffocate you. You know, it doesn't cause disease or struggle for you. And if beauty can do that and energy can do that and help you move that through exploration, we're seeing something beautiful. I don't know. I'm down. Send me out every single art gallery in the country. I'm down.
To go check them out, you mean?
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but so that like this guy and you and whoever's making art, but you're basically creating an image of how you feel or what you see in your mind, right? And so that image just somehow is an imprint to whoever that person, that it touches when they see it, just like the example you shared when you gave that gift away. Is that right? Like you're just painting not what somebody else might see, but you're painting what you see, and then somebody else sees it completely different and it touches them in a different way.
I do feel like that is a huge part of the truth. Yes. I also because I am a psychic channel and a seer and an energy worker for people, for a long time I felt like most of my paintings were very channeled from a meditative state, and I'm an abstract expressionism. So everything with abstract expressionism, if you poke into that movement, was about expression, emotion, feeling, gathering things in a completely new way and doing things in a new way that wasn't like what the masters were doing, where it was very literal and portraiture. And it doesn't mean that you can't feel through those things. They're just approaching art in a whole different way with releasing this from their body. So there is a huge amount of truth to what you say. But I also feel like, as someone who channels energy, you can take energy and channel that into an object where someone can take that object and then receive the energy from it, whether by holding it or, receiving it. Or in my world, if you understand, or subscribe to the notion that we are multidimensional, that we can transfer codes and information back and forth by exchange, whether that be being in each other's presence or a piece of artwork. There is healing encoded in the things that I have created. And I think that's what, kind of makes me a little bit unique. So I can do that by, like what you said, either I'm channeling my own emotion, or there's something here and I'm being gifted something from divine, my higher self, whatever that is. And I see this visual, I'm going to see this through. And most of the times I don't even always know what I'm painting until I'm finished.
Mm.
So I get to have this full experience. And then, like you said, it goes out into the world and someone else gets to have their own unique experience. And if it does cross with mine, well, how cool is that? That's just a double connection of something that we can both identify with, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when someone else has their own unique experience, like Darnell, the woman that I gave the painting to, she saw something there through her own energy. So the codes that come through whatever I make, whether that be something that you hire me for, like my visual alchemy sigils, or that, and I don't commission paintings because that's a whole other conversation. But some of the graphics work that I've done, I've brought that in. Those are the visual alchemy sigils. I will specifically connect for you to your higher self, your future most healed self, and your soul energy, and ask what is it that they need right now in a visual format, if they don't want to go through the other processes that I would offer as, an energy worker. And I'll channel a whole piece for them. And then lo and behold, when it gets to them, I get pages of email back from these folks. They're like, how did you know? So then so I think there's a lot of different ways that artists can go about their craft, or energy workers can go about their craft, and how things come through us as a tool and vary. And I don't feel like there's any rules there around how energy is transferred, just about the integrity in which you come to the table to be a facilitator for that.
Mm. Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. So, curveball. Um, Prior to this, you mentioned the word imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
right? And you were kind of like hesitant of, I guess, in the direction you were headed in a sense. And correct me if I'm wrong. But would you share a little bit of, maybe navigating that? And now here you are today talking to me, and you're like,
Yeah.
you got this drive, right? So what was that like, or what is it still like if you're still feeling it now a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I never understood this idea of imposter syndrome. I think the name of that is just terribly wrong. I don't think that's titled well. But when I started exploring and understanding that's probably what I was going through, what I understood, it was, I'm not good enough, or I'm measuring myself against other people and what they do that's similar to me, or who am I to be able to do these things or go this way? Are you being inauthentic? And I think what brought me to that space was I had a couple of years of business that were very difficult. I felt like I was attracting all the wrong clients. I felt like no matter how I shifted gears, I was no longer the person that people would. I want to be careful about how I say this, because I think, well, let me back up. So I started out doing $75 sessions and driving to other people's houses for it. I quickly needed to move out of that model. And then I got to a space where I realized the audience that I was so grateful that supported me into a space of self-employment and business and entrepreneurship was no longer the audience that I was being asked to serve. And I actually couldn't live off of what I was asking monetarily. The exchange became um, unequal. The reciprocity was not in a space that was helping me thrive. So little by little, I began to raise my prices, which also hurt my business because I didn't have another audience that was seeing me for who I was and what I could bring to the table. And I think that was a cycle in my life that I really had to break. Along the same time, I had major problems with chronic illness all of a sudden rear its head. So I'm a Lyme survivor. And when I say Lyme, I don't mean I got bit by a tick. I mean, I was in bed and could not walk or drive without assistance, and could not drive at all for a while. Like, it was really bad. Um, and during Lyme, I was going through treatment. I ended up with COVID long hauler, which reactivated Epstein-Barr in my body, which I'm still struggling with. And during that time, and I also believe when you have troubles in business problems are personal problems. And I had so much stress and things going on as I was trying to navigate what was being asked of me to change. I began to lose faith in my abilities. I lost faith in my personal power. And I started to no longer trust what I was bringing forward, because I had a lot of people who were takers, and I had a lot of people around me who, you know, wanted what I had, but often pushed the envelope or complained about pricing, or, so I felt after a while like I was throwing my hands in the air, like, you know what, spirit? And I was kind of giving them the middle finger and saying, I'm not walking this path anymore unless it becomes a space of sacred giving and receiving that fills both our cups. Because this is not me being a slave to any of the talents that I've been blessed with. This is about creating and being in leadership from a space of, like, the heart, and being able to be in that space without completely being drained. What does that even look like, universe? Can you show me that? Because otherwise, peace out. Not interested. I'm going to lock myself in a room, be a painter, and no one's going to see my shit. And I'm not going to do any more channeling for anybody. And I'm not going to be a servant. I can't do that. And I think I got to this place where I saw a lot of people coming forward who were beginning to thrive with price tags that I couldn't even understand. And I'm talking $1,000 a session. And that's cool. If you can get that, rock on with your bad self, and maybe you can share some of your clients with me. But I just felt like I wasn't good enough after a while. The sickness really, really messed with my mind. I felt really incapable. I was struggling in a body that shut me off from my gifts for a while too. And that's a really important thing. You have no motivation. And if I'm painting and I'm also channeling or doing psychic work for folks, dysregulation, and your body is saying no, we need every ounce of energy to heal what's happening for you, to you, on a cellular level. There is no giving here. We're going to shut you off. So I felt super abandoned by my belief sets, couldn't even tap in for myself, and had to rely on the mercy of who was around me to help. And I have a beautiful network. I don't want to make it sound like I didn't have those folks who loved me and saw me for what I was worth. I absolutely do have that. But that's now the pool that I maintain in, instead of me feeling like I have to justify that I'm worth your time and money.
Mhm.
A lion doesn't need to tell you it's a lion. So now I just show up and I say, okay. And I'm not married to someone's decision, because I understand what I can do for people and what I've done for myself and what I've done for others. And I just want it to be from a space of goodness. So yeah, it was a really, really tough go. And I didn't do podcasts for a long time because I'm like, I don't even freaking know what I talk about right now, because I'm not sure what my direction is. I don't know what to do.
I think I know what it is, but we'll talk about that later. um, no, so you shared a little bit art, music, all that stuff. What exactly is everything that you is in your toolbox?
So yeah, so I primarily really focus on working in retreat spaces, hosting one-to-one retreats, or even co-creating with other people, as well as having side products like selling my fine artwork, selling certain products that have to do with artwork, because for me, it is all about bringing humans back to the space of embodying safety in their own energy and reigniting them. I call it their oracle, right? So that's their gifts, their psychic gifts, or even just their talents, because everything comes back to healing the self. You can practice whatever skill set that you want, whether that's your tarot cards, whether that's your channeling, whether that's your mediumship, whether that's your energy work. But if you do not have a good foundation in self-trust, and you continue to look for your unmet needs to be met by external things, then you can only expand so far. Imagine what kind of expansion you can have in your life when you start facing your shadow, when you start really digging into the subconscious in a way that feels supportive, safe, good for you, with joy peppered into that. I think healing is tears and boogers. It's not this love and light crap that people put out. That's a bypass, right? And too much healing is too much healing. It's not, if I just heal this, everything will be okay, or chasing that. That's trauma math. That's not healing. You need integration time for that. So my toolbox consists of, I started with Reiki, and I've gained multiple certifications over the last 20 years because I've been in the energy and the art industry for well over 20 years. So what I like to do is I like to focus and customize things for people and really work with their shadow energy. I love to channel for them, with them, and help them find the answers through somatic work as well as energy work, and help them put the pieces of the things together that they might not be seeing. So when someone sits with me, unless you choose a specific session that I have called an energy reboot, which is no talking, it's just channeling and healing and clearing, hard 15-minute stop. You're going to sit with me outside of that for an hour and a half. I don't like to be fickle around time except for the reboots, because that's meant to do a specific thing. You're going to sit with me for about an hour and a half, and we're going to track. We're going to track information as to why you're not healing through the Akashic, We're going to track information as to why you're not healing through your ancestral roots, through your past lives, through parts of self and aspects of self. And we're going to work to reintegrate the wholeness of that information without the emotional charge, without the frustration or the trauma loop. And we can do that if someone is willing to come at that space in a place of curiosity and wonderment. And I'm going to hold your hand. You have a session with me. It's not goodbye, we're done at the end of that. Like, you have my phone number. You have my, you have text messaging capabilities with me, because there's so many cases in this world, and I've experienced this on some end too, where people begin to feel untouchable in the spiritual community or in the therapy community or in the entrepreneurship community, and they'd only offer like big huge gatherings of like hundreds of thousands of people, or like, no, I don't see private clients anymore, but their medicine is really changing one person at a time in such depth that I don't think I will ever give up one-to-one sessions. And people told me to do that. I'd love to see you get out of the hourly model, Kaile. I'd love to see you do. Well, why can't I have this and that? Why does it have to be this or that? Because some people don't thrive in a sea of thousands of people, and that doesn't help them clear some of the stuff that we're clearing. So I do have a deep toolbox. I've studied everything from Reiki to some shamanism, to theta healing and multidimensional work. And I've come up with my own way of doing things. So I've innovated off of the things that I've learned and found my own way of doing things, which is the medicine. It is what people have. Finding your way of doing a podcast is different than my live show Healers With. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot. And real quick, I'll touch on the group and the one-on-ones. So when you were with me when I was talking to David, and we were talking about values, mission, and vision, right? So he had opportunities to where it could have been a group kind of deal or one-on-one, and I chose the one-on-one. I feel sometimes I get more out of it because it's just me, right? It's not everybody asking questions, and he could just focus on my questions. And that's what I enjoyed the most. And so I've been one-on-one with other people as well, but that works for me. And a group is great too, because everybody can meet in one area at the same time, and one person can ask a question that is not afraid to ask the question that somebody else is afraid to ask, right?
Yes.
And so it helps. So I think having both is awesome because they might shift, right? So somebody in a group might be like, "Hey, I need Kayla to help me one-on-one now because I'm not getting a little bit. I'm only getting a little bit out of this group. So let's jump over that." So I think having both is great, not just one. So I would totally go with having both on the side there. How does somebody reach out to you for your services, your art, go see it because I know you have it up, you know. Huh?
Yeah, so I'm represented here in Massachusetts. I would love to find representation outside of Massachusetts, because I do feel ready to really be seen and supported as a fine artist. You can see my art on at True Grit Gallery. So it's True Grit Gallery. They're in Middleborough, Massachusetts. They are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. And they have a smattering of artists. It's not just abstract, it's everything. I also do have an Instagram page dedicated specifically just for my fine art work, which is kaile.dutton.art. And, and if you're interested in, the one-on-one or some of the group things or the customized retreats and things like that, you can just find me on my Facebook page. Like, I don't care if you friend me on my personal page or my business page. They both have the same name. It's Kaile Dutton. The business page has the, facebook.com/multidimensional Kaile. My website's being revamped, so I won't give that out, but it is my name. It's Kaile Dutton. I try to make things easy. Just find
Sounds
someone by
like
the
it.
name. I don't need like an extra fancy name, because it just doesn't, you just don't need that. Um, so, and I'm happy to have a discussion with someone at any point in time. I do offer like just a virtual coffee. I call it a connection call, just to see if we're like a right fit. And if I'm not the right fit, I have a beautiful, beautiful network and a huge pool of people that I have no problems referring you out to. If I get, a real psychic ping that says, I'm not your person. I don't want you to go without help. I'm going to give you names and I'm going to lead you into directions, because that's what networking is. That's what having a pool of amazing supportive community and tribe is about. It's about saying, I can't do this for you, but I know someone who does, or I'm not the right energy fit for you because what you're looking for isn't my genius. So you need to go to this person because that's their genius. Supporting each other's geniuses. So you can just find me through my name, Kaile Dutton, Kaile. And I have multiple different pages. Instagram. I also am on TikTok. And you get different things on different platforms.
Mhm.
So
Okay, cool. So I ask one question I ask every guest I have on here at the end. So what are three key things you've learned and used along your journey?
grace.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that was hard. I still have to practice that. Grace. The word no. That was huge. Let's see, grace, no. And above all else, I had to learn to value myself.
Was that the hardest one?
Yes, because I think there are multi levels and multi layers to self value. And I would not say that I was someone who did not value myself, but I think I get caught up, or I did get caught up, that I had more loyalty for other people than I had for myself. And a lot of the times I would say yes because the things that I believe in my own core values would get me into trouble. And now those core values are being reshaped and they help me with a map. So I would say I had to value myself. I had to learn the word no. And I really had to learn grace.
Awesome. Thank you. They're all great.
Yeah.
I think the last one, is a challenge sometimes because we compare ourselves to a lot of people too. And
Yeah.
so that, yeah, that's tough. But Kayla, I appreciate you sharing everything you shared with us today. All the way back from, your chronic illness and going through, hey, that's life, right? Like this is how you get
It
to where you
is.
are today. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here talking to me at the moment. But yeah, that music, art, all that stuff, and how you help people. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has just been a real treat. I really appreciate you and what you're doing for folks.
Yeah, you're welcome.